Okay, today I will quickly walk you through how to get a UPC code from GS1 and what is GS1 and why GS1. GS1 is the global organization who creates and manages the UPC code for the products all over the world. So UPC is a universal product code. It's a barcode to identify your product, as I said, all over the world and across all platforms. It's unique to a specific product, and once you have the UPC code for your product, it belongs to your product forever, and you can use the same UPC code to create listing on other platforms, not just Amazon, but like ST or Walmart, if you want to sell the same product on other platforms, right? So that UPC is valid across all platforms and all over the world for your product. And you will need a UPC code, of course, to create a listing for your product on Amazon. And every variation will need a UPC code. For example, if you sell t-shirts and you have two variations of black or white, right? And each variation will need a UPC code, and you will only use UPC code for the child ASIN or the variation only, not the parent ASIN. I have to emphasize this, and I will talk more about this in the video about how to create a listing on Amazon and child and parent ASIN on Amazon. But today we will quickly go through how to get a UPC code from GS1. And why GS1? Because recently Amazon announced that it will require the UPC code to be obtained from GS1 to ensure the accuracy and legitimacy of your UPC code. In the past, sellers used to be able to get UPC codes at a very cheap price from third-party sellers or third-party websites such as Snap UPC or eBay. The problem with this is that you don't own the UPC code completely. You may share that UPC code with many other owners, and of course, it's not right? The code should belong to your product only. So basically, you can get UPC codes with lower cost, but it's not legitimate. That's the point. So that's why it's the best just to get the UPC codes from GS1, and you can ensure that your product is safe from the risk of being delisted by Amazon just because of your UPC code is not legitimate, right? And I personally like to go to GS1 US to get the UPC code. You can just go to the website gs1us.org, and you can see the option to get a barcode here. Click in get a barcode, and then you can see the three options. So you notice that GTIN is the same thing with UPC, so no difference between them. And you can see you have the option of get individual barcode, or you can get the company prefix for a large amount of UPC. So if you click in this company prefix option, right, get a GS1 company prefix, you can see that the first option is 10 UPC codes, and initial fee is $250. So that means $25 each for a UPC code. It sounds a little bit like cheaper than individual UPC code where you have to pay $30. But look at this. Annual renewal fee, so you have to pay this. Whereas if you choose this option, all right, so I click in it, and you can see that you don't have annual renewal fee. So the UPC or the GTIN barcode will belong to you forever. You don't have to pay any annual renewal fee. So for majority of the newbie sellers, right, it is a better option because you don't have to pay a large amount of upfront cost. The more you save in the beginning, the better. Right, so once you go to the page where you can obtain a single UPC code, you have two fields over here. Firstly is the brand name, right? So you put in your brand name, ABC, for example, if you have a registered brand name, and if you don't, of course, you put in the intended brand name that you will use for your product in the future, right? So that is for brand name. And product description, you can hover your mouse over the question mark over here, and you can see some examples of how to input the product description. You firstly start with the brand name and then comma and then type of the product and product variation, and then net content. Net content is basically if you sell a product in a single unit, which is what your customer will receive. You just put in unit, or if you sell something in a pack of 2, you put in pack of 2. Look at some examples over here, right? Edible harvest jam, raspberry 20 OZ. So edible harvest could be the brand name, and then jam is the type of the product, right? Raspberry is a variation because maybe they have different flavors like strawberry, for example. And then 20 OZ is the net content that the consumer will get if they buy the product from them. So that is the net content. Or the other example, you have speedy runners, midnight athlete shoe, black, and size 9. So first start with your brand name and then product description. For example, if you sell women dress, right? Just woman dress, or more specific, if you sell midi dress, right? Woman midi dress. And then product variation. If you decide that the variations that you will have for your product is in color, right? So you would choose either black or white or whatever color you have chosen for your product. For example, black. But if you have decided that you will have variations in sizes for your product, like size M, size S, size L, you just put in the size over here, like size M for this particular variation. Remember that each UPC will be used for a specific variation, right? So this UPC will be used for this variation of the black color. If you want to create another variation for your product on Amazon, for example, white color, you will have to get another UPC code. And then after that, you have net content, right? So if the dress come in a full unit, right, it's 1 unit, you just say 1 unit. In some rare cases, if you sell a set of 2 dresses, you just say a set of 2. So anything that describe your product very well, so just put in. It doesn't hurt if you put in more information, but remember just to follow the instruction over here, because that's when they can easily identify your product, right? And then you just click in add to cart, and then you click in checkout. Okay, so if you don't have an account with GS1 yet, of course, you will have the option of continue as new. This is when I have to really remind you of how you would input the information over here. I'm not sure if I have mentioned this in the video, but how GS1 organization records and manages your information is that it matches the ownership information with the UPC code. When you input your company's information over here, make sure that it's exactly the same as the legal entity you have on your Amazon seller account, because if Amazon ever wants to examine your UPC, right, it will also go to GS1 data and cross-check the ownership information of the UPC. That's all information that Amazon will check with your UPC, right, you input in on Amazon platform. So make sure that if you have a company, put in your exact company address the same as what you have on your Amazon seller account, and your company name over here exactly the same as what you have on your Amazon seller account. I recommend you open your Amazon seller central account, go to setting and go to legal entity, and just copy and paste your company name over here. If you are an individual, right, just put in your name over here, your name exactly the same as what you have on Amazon legal entity, and company's phone number, of course, the same phone number as you use for your Amazon seller central account. And other contact, of course, that will be your name, right, and email address, where GS1 will send the confirmation email and send the UPC code to your email address. Yeah, so that is a very important step in signing up with GS1 and getting your UPC code, $30 in total for a UPC code. That's pretty much it. So remember that what GS1 manages is the ownership information of a UPC code, and that will be also what Amazon will be able to check with GS1. So if you go to Google and search for UPC lookup, GS1, right, you will see the many options from GS1 that you can look up the UPC code. For example, you can put in any UPC code over here, even yourself, and choose the option ownership. So mainly is the information about ownership, and then search and it will show all the information about the owner of that specific UPC code that you put in. That's my point about how Amazon will double check your UPC code. If it ever wants to check your UPC code, it will access this database from GS1 and double check the ownership information. So make sure that you input your company's name, phone number, and address exactly the same as what you have on your Amazon Seller Central account as your legal entity, right? So if you are an individual, just put in your exact name as the legal entity on your Amazon Seller account. That's it. Any question, just let me know. I will talk to you soon. Bye.